Pólvora, ¿cómo están? Sean todos ustedes bienvenidos a una entrevista más aquí en nuestro canal de YouTube. Recuerden darle clic a la campana de abajo para seguir adelante con todas las notificaciones de videos que hemos estado subiendo en las últimas semanas. Y el día de hoy tengo el gran honor y gran gusto de que me acompaña uno de los productores más importantes que hay actualmente en la música en Estados Unidos y que va a estar la próxima semana en el Corona Capital 2021 como parte de su acto solista Bleachers. Sin más, les presento a Jack Antonoff. Jack, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm actually I'm calling from Panama.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just
How
finished the tour, finished the U.S. tour, and then came down to Panama, and then I'll come to Mexico in a couple days.
sounds like a nice holiday place.
Yeah, it's really pretty here. I'm really happy here.
Well, Jack, let's begin because I have a lot of questions for you. The first one,
Cool.
You recently released a live EP, Live at Electric Lady. If you can tell me to begin with the experience of recording at this legendary studio for you.
Well, I'm there almost every day. That's where I work when I'm in New York, and it's amazing because sometimes your environment is a huge part of your process, and you have to feel inspired and proud to be there and all of these things. And like you can see yourself within it. And I've just always, when I walk through those doors, felt something very powerful and felt ready to try new things and push myself. And we did all these recordings there during COVID. We did some on the roof and then we did some inside. And so this live EP is a collection of all the different recordings that we made live in the building. That were all different rearrangements of the album.
And the first one is a cover of Drive by the Cars. Also, if you can tell me more about the choice of including this song.
It's a song that feels a lot like the music I've been making lately, which is extremely sad and dark, but also really there's a hopeful twist in it. The album I made is called Take the Sadness Out of Saturday Night, and that Drive song, it feels like that. It feels like this melancholic blue, heartbroken driving song. And that's just where I'm at in my life right now.
I'm going to move ahead to one of the questions that I have for later, because yes, Take the Sadness Out of Saturday Night. It's a very melancholic album. Would you say this was the hardest that you have composed as a solo artist?
Yes. It was hard to get out this feeling that I was having and to make the music around it have an inch of hope, but also speak to the melancholy within it, because that's really the space that interests me the most. I can be very melancholy or I can be very hopeful, but the space right in the middle where you get both is my favorite space to write from, and that's the heart and soul of the album.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. And would you say that after the release of the album or maybe after the tour, all these feelings, all these sensations that you had during the composition process were in some kind relief?
So I don't know if it's relief or if it's just growth. It kind of feels like what has to happen. I don't know if it makes me feel better, but it makes me feel alive, and maybe ipso facto that makes me feel better. But it's more a function of what I have to do to feel awake and valuable and feel myself. But I don't know if I go as far as saying relief.
Okay. Well, Jack, going back to the Live at the Electric Lady, also on Take the Sadness, you recorded a song with one of my favorite artists, which is, well, actually, you recorded with two of my favorite artists. The first one being Bruce Springsteen on the song Chinatown. If you can tell me more about the work with Bruce and the approach you had with him.
Does Bruce have a big Mexican audience?
Not really, honestly. He came down to Mexico City in 2013, and there wasn't a lot of people
Really?
you used to think. Yeah,
Really?
it's sad. Yeah, because we only on the radio can hear "Born in the USA" and Dancing in the Dark, but that's the only songs they put on the radio.
So, but I feel like I'm fascinated with who are sort of the really big artists that from that time period in Mexico.
It's a very curious moment in time because, for example, we have as huge artists here in Mexico from the 70s and 80s. We have the Purple and we have the Scorpions. Those are very popular here.
Bigger than Bruce?
Yeah.
Bruce is well, we're from the same place. So when I wrote Chinatown, and it's a song about, New Jersey and New York, New Jersey hugs New York City. It goes all along it. So if you grow up in New Jersey, you kind of grow up looking in at, and it creates this big younger brother feeling. And I wrote this song about taking someone you love back to New Jersey from the city, which is a metaphor about showing someone the less shiny parts of yourself. And one day I was hanging out with Bruce. He's a friend of mine, and showing him stuff and showing him that song. And he's got a studio at his place. One thing led to another. Everyone's messing around on it. It was very organic and just out of, kind of friends messing around in a song. And I started listening back and messing with it and realized that there was a really beautiful energy of him coming in on the second chorus. The song is about me coming home with someone I love. He is probably the ultimate representation of my home, New Jersey, he's the greatest, most specific New Jersey artist who's told that story so well. And it just did this amazing thing. And I remember hearing it and thinking, God, this really captures the feeling of what I'm going for.
Wow, what a magical story, actually. It must be really impressive to work with him. And now, talking about another song, and the other guest of the album is obviously Saint Vincent, who you have... Yeah, sorry?
She's playing Corona Capital also, same day.
Yeah, same day. And I'm really excited to see you, both of you. So I wanted to ask you also about the recording with her at Electric Lady, because I know you have been working together since the last record, Mass Seduction, but about that specific moment is what I want to know.
When we made that recording, it was before the vaccine, so we could only be up on the roof and we could only be outside 6 feet apart. And I remember there's a video of it online. I was on a platform, my drummer was over there, horn players were up on another roof, and then I made this little ledge where Bruce or Annie could sit, whoever was guest. And Annie came and sat. We barely rehearsed it and just sang on the song called What Do I Do With All This Faith, which is one of my favorite songs from the album, because the album really poses a question, and that song is, it's that question. What the sadness of having faith you don't know what to do with, and the hope of having it in the first place. But I love Annie. We've made a few albums together. I've produced some of her albums, and she produced a different song on my album, the first song called 91, and we just have a very one of the most important creative relationships in my life.
How much as a composer have you been influenced by the artists you produce?
Very. Not necessarily specifically influenced by what we're doing, but very influenced by the emotion behind it, kind of the bravery of a lot of the artists I work with. I can draw from that pretty heavily. Like a group of people that see each other and root for each other. It's an important thing to have.
Nice. And I want to stick here for a moment because I know you must have a lot of stories as a producer also. And I have right here, That Is Home,
yes,
which you co-produced. And I want to ask you, how was it for you to have this experimentation with the 70s sound? Because we can hear a lot of soul music, psychedelic rhythms, a little bit of funk. If you can tell me about these challenges as a producer you had for this record.
It was very interesting, and it was really about the playing. And on that album, we found a palette of sounds, and then it was about how we played them. And Annie and I played most of the instruments on the album, and we just went really hard, just really just fucking it up and playing some real weird shit and some real strange turnarounds and dialing in these sounds that made you want to play outside of the circle of what's, you know, feels like what you should be doing. It's a really out there record to me and to make, and I think for that reason it was actually a lot of fun to make it, because we were just, you know, way out in the frontier charting some new zone.
Do you think you are going to work on another album next time?
I don't know. I always try to go case by case with people I work with. You know, every album is a different story, and you kind of live very much in the moment when you're making records with people. You don't make too many plans for the future.
Cool. So, Jack, I believe time's almost over, but I have many questions left. But one that I want to know, if I have to pick one, is I know you have released 3 volumes of Terrible Thrills, a very interesting project where you have female singers as a special guest. But I want to focus specifically on volume 1, because you had guests like Amanda Palmer and Scarlett Johansson. If you can share some memories you have from those recordings.
Some of those recordings those people made on their own and been sent to me, but that was the first time I had the idea of representing the music in some sort of flip. I just remember Amanda Palmer, this was before everyone live streamed everything. She was live streaming her version of the song she was recording, and I felt really wild to see an artist I love mess with my song. I made me feel very proud and weird, and then I just liked this idea. It set me on this course where, you know, now I do it in many different ways and sort of remixes and covers and reinterpretations. But this idea that you write a body of work and then it's a body of work, but then there's all these other ways it can exist. I got very, very excited about that.
Great. Now, Jack, for one last thing, I want to ask you for a small favor. If you can send a greeting to all the audience here at Pólvora, also inviting them to listen to Take the Sadness out of Saturday nights and to your show at Corona Capital.
I just want to say hi to the whole audience at Pólvora. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Love to the whole audience at Pólvora. This is Jack from Bleachers. You can listen to Take the Sadness out of Saturday night and come see my first show ever in Mexico at Corona Capital.